My mother's name only shows up on my phone when something is wrong. Not wrong like I miss you or I just wanted to hear your voice. Wrong like, the car won't start. Your brother needs help again. I don't understand this insurance thing. Or the classic, can you just? So when my phone lit up at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I saw MOM flashing on the screen, I knew before I picked up that this wasn't a how are you call. I was halfway through reheating leftover pasta, laptop open on the counter, email still glowing from my boss. I stared at the screen for 1, 2, 3 rings. Part of me wanted to let it go to voicemail. Part of me already knew I'd answer. I always do. I hit accept. Hey, Mom, I said. Everything okay? She skipped, hello. Emily, thank God you picked up, she said. Do you have a minute? That sentence, do you have a minute, is the family code for, I'm about to take at least 30. And it will not be about you. I glanced at the microwave, where my pasta was slowly deflating. Yeah, I said, putting the fork down. What's going on? She sighed the way only a mother can sigh. Big, heavy, world on shoulders. It's your brother, she said. Of course it is. It's always my brother, I said before I could stop myself. She ignored that. He's in a bit of a situation, she went on, and we didn't know who else to call. We didn't know who else to call. Not he. Not I. We, as in the family committee, has convened and decided you are the solution. My shoulders tightened. What kind of situation? I asked. He's just going through a rough patch, she said. You know how it is. I do know how it is. I've known how it is since Jake was 16 and discovered that charm plus chaos equals other people picking up your pieces. Mom, I said slowly, is he okay? Is he hurt? Is someone in danger? No, she said quickly. Nothing like that. He just needs a little help with his rent this month, just to get over the hump. There it was. The hump. The emergency that apparently required my immediate attention at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday 2 states away. How much is a little? I asked. She hesitated. 800, she said, maybe 9. His hours got cut and he had that car thing and I closed my eyes. Mom, I said, I just sent him 400 last month. I know, she said, and we're really grateful. He's really grateful. No, he's not, I thought. He sent me a thumbs up emoji and a meme. But this time is different, she added. It is never different. I can't let him get evicted, she said. Where would he go? I leaned against the counter, staring at the microwave, counting down the last 30 seconds of my pasta. I thought about my own rent, my own student loans, my car that makes a weird noise every time I turn left. I don't know if I can do that this month, I said slowly. Silence. Then, Emily, she said, voice dropping into that hurt mother tone. You make good money. There it is, the script. You make good money. You don't have kids. You live alone. Translation? Your life doesn't count as a real life. Your resources are community property. I make decent money, I said. I also have bills, just like everyone else. She sighed again. I'm not saying you have to, she said. We just thought, you're the responsible one. You always figure things out. There it was. The backhanded compliment that has been both my crown and my cage since I was 8. You're the responsible one. When Jake forgot his homework, I was the one who reminded him. When Dad drank too much and fell asleep in the recliner, I was the one who cleaned up the beer cans. When Mom needed someone to vent to about everyone else, I was the one who listened. You always figure things out meant, we will always assume you'll fix it. I swallowed. Have you talked to him about getting a second job? I asked. Or a roommate? He's under a lot of stress, she said. The job market is hard right now. You of all people should understand. Why me of all people? I asked. Because you used to struggle too, she said. Remember when you lived in that tiny apartment and ate ramen? I remember. I also remember working 2 jobs and not asking anyone for help because I was determined not to be a burden. Right, I said, and I figured it out, like you said. She brushed past that. I just don't know what we're going to do, she said. Your father's hours got cut again. I'm behind on the electric. If Jake falls behind too, we'll all drown. We. That word again. I rubbed my forehead. Okay, but Mom, I said, do you notice that you only call me when it's about money? Or a problem? We haven't talked in 3 weeks. That's not fair, she said immediately. I called you last month to ask about your work thing. You mean when you called to ask if I could help you fill out taxes and then said, how's work, anyway, while I was on hold with the IRS? I asked. She paused. Well, we're all busy, she said. I don't want to bother you with little stuff. I call when it's important. Important. Translation? I call when I need something. I felt something in my chest shift. I'm important, I said quietly. Not just my ability to fix things. She made a sound like I'd spoken in another language. Of course you're important, she said. That's why we come to you. You're the only one we can rely on. I wanted that sentence to feel good. It didn't. It felt like a weight disguised as a compliment. It felt like a hand on my shoulder pushing me down into a role I never auditioned for. You always step up, she added. You're a good daughter. There it was. The trump card. Good daughter. I stared at the cooling pasta. Appetite gone. Let me call you back, I said. I need to look at my budget. Okay, she said, relief already in her voice. Thank you, honey. I knew I could count on you. We hung up. I didn't open my bank app right away. I stood in my tiny kitchen, phone still in my hand, and scrolled through my recent calls. Mom, 4 minutes. Mom, 11 minutes. Mom, 32 minutes. I tapped. Do you know how to set up online banking? Your aunt is mad at me. What should I say? Can you talk to your brother? He won't listen to me. Do you remember my password for the cable thing? I scrolled further back. When was the last time she called just to ask how I was? Without a crisis attached? I couldn't find it. That's when the thought landed in my mind like a stone in a still pond. My family only calls when they need something. And for the first time in 33 years, instead of feeling secretly proud of being the one who could handle everything, I felt used. I put the phone down on the counter. My pasta was cold. It hit me then, not dramatically, not like a movie, but in a quiet, weary way. My phone is not a line to my family. It's a service hotline, and I am very, very tired of being on call. No one officially appointed me the family's designated adult. There was no ceremony, no crown, no laminated badge that said Emily, responsible one. But if you looked closely, the signs were there early. When I was 8 and Jake was 5, Mom would say, "Watch your brother," before disappearing into the bedroom to cry quietly or take a nap that smelled like wine. When Dad forgot to pay the electric bill, Mom would dig through the junk drawer and ask me, "Do you remember when the shutoff notice came? Was it last week or the week before?" At school, teachers said things like, "Emily is so mature for her age. Emily is very independent. Emily is so helpful. Adults love kids who act like adults. It makes their lives easier. At 10, I knew how to cook basic dinners. At 12, I knew where my parents kept the emergency cash. At 14, I knew exactly how to gauge Dad's mood by the sound of his truck pulling into the driveway. If it was a slam of the door and heavy boots, don't ask for anything. If it was a slow open and a sigh, you might get a story about work. If it was loud singing and the smell of beer hide, people talk about parentification in therapy circles. Kids who are more like partners or therapists than children. I didn't have that word then. I just knew that when something went wrong, people looked at me. When Jake left his backpack on the bus, Mom turned to me. "Why didn't you remind him?" she asked. When Carrie, our younger cousin, scraped her knee at a barbecue and started screaming, Aunt Deborah handed her to me. "You're good with kids," she said. "Just calm her down." When Dad's mother died, Mom sat at the kitchen table, sobbing into a dish towel. "Can you make coffee for everyone?" she asked. "And make sure your father's okay?" I was 12. I made the coffee. I checked on Dad, who sat in the dark living room staring at the wall. "You okay?" I asked. He sniffed. "I'm fine," he said. "Go help your mother." So I did. Helping my mother became my job. I listened to her vent about Dad's moods, about money, about her sister, about her job. I learned that if I nodded and agreed and offered reasonable problem-solving steps, she would calm down faster. "You should be a therapist," she joked when I was 15. "You're so good at this." I laughed. I didn't know that one day I actually would be a therapist, and that one of my main jobs would be unlearning the idea that my value comes from absorbing other people's feelings. At 16, I got my first job at a grocery store. My paycheck went into our household, for now, Mom said, until we catch up on bills. We never caught up. By 18, I was the one who sat with Dad at the kitchen table and said, "We can't afford cable and the truck payment and 2 credit cards. We have to pick." He'd grumble. "You sound like one of those finance people on TV," he said. But he'd listen. I felt proud and resentful at the same time. Proud because my opinion mattered. Resentful because I shouldn't have been there. When it was time for college, my guidance counselor asked, "Do your parents have a plan for paying?" I laughed and shook my head. "The plan is loans," I said, "and me working. There is no backup plan." I moved 2 hours away to a state school with decent aid, and a roommate who thought my stories about home were intense in a way she couldn't fully understand. "You're like the mom of your family," she said after one late-night talk. I shrugged. "Someone has to be," I replied. She wrinkled her nose. "Yeah, but you shouldn't have to be," she said. That thought followed me for years. You shouldn't have to be. But I was. Even from 2 hours away, my phone became the lifeline. Mom called when Dad got laid off from the factory. "He's not talking to anyone," she whispered. "He just sits there. I don't know what to do." I spent an hour talking her down, then called Dad. "Hey," I said lightly, "heard you're living the retired life early." He snorted. "You think this is funny?" he asked. "No," I said. "I think it's scary. But you've gotten through worse." I reminded him of the time the plant had cut hours years before, of when we'd survived on canned soup and Mom's tips. "You've always figured it out," I said. "You will again." That phrase, turned back on him, seemed to help. He took a breath. "Maybe," he said. "We'll see." I ended the call exhausted. My roommate asked, "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied. "It's fine." I graduated. I got a job in a neighboring city, then, later, moved again for grad school. Each move brought me a little further away physically, but emotionally, the distance didn't hold. I could be on a mountain in Peru, and my phone would still find me. Do you know how to fill out this HR form? What do I say to your aunt about Christmas? Can you talk to your brother about staying with us again? I can't say no. I learned to read the pattern. No contact for days or weeks. Sudden text. Hey, are you busy? Call. Sorry to bother you, but most of the time, I said yes. Not because I didn't know how to say no, because saying no felt like betrayal. It felt like I was dropping the ball that had kept us all afloat. People from healthier families don't always get this. They say things like, just set a boundary, or just don't pick up, like it's as easy as turning off a light. They don't hear the voices in your head saying, if you don't help, bad things will happen. If you don't help, you're selfish. If you don't help, you're not a good daughter. So you help. Again and again. Until one night in your 30s, standing in your small but hard-earned apartment kitchen, staring at a phone you pay for with money you work for, you realize, they don't call to share my life. They call to use my life as a resource. And for the first time, instead of feeling special, you feel tired. Really, really tired. After that Tuesday night call, I did open my banking app. Old habits die hard. I stared at the numbers, doing the math. If I sent 800, I would be okay. Not great, not comfortable, but okay. I could skip going out this month, push back the dentist, pretend I didn't see my car's check engine light. I'd done it before. What stopped me wasn't the numbers. It was the notification banner from earlier that day, still sitting at the top of my screen. Your student loan autopay is scheduled for Friday. 800. I thought about 22-year-old me, working weekends at a coffee shop after full-time classes. I thought about every double shift, every overtime hour, every time I did the mental gymnastics of can I afford this $12 takeout? No one had offered to cover my rent then. No one had said, we can't let her get evicted. I'd figured it out. And when I couldn't, I'd lived with the consequences. Now, somehow, my success had turned me into the family safety net. I closed the app and opened a notes file instead. At the top, I wrote, how many times? I scrolled back through my Venmo, my Zelle, my bank transfers. $200 for Jake's car. $150, Mom's copay. $75 electric bill, I'll pay you back. $50, groceries till Friday. $400, that rent hump. It added up fast. I knew, rationally, that money given in love isn't a transaction you're supposed to tally, but it didn't feel like love. It felt like a tab that only went in one direction. I started a second list, non-money favors. Just that week, editing Mom's angry email to her boss so she wouldn't get fired, talking Jake through conversations with his landlord that were really just him avoiding responsibilities, helping Aunt Deborah with her Medicare questions because you're good with forms, all while working a full-time job in HR that already revolved around fixing other people's problems. I sat down at my tiny kitchen table and stared at the lists. Then, without planning to, I did something that changed everything. I called my friend Rachel. Rachel knows more about my family than some of my relatives do. She answered on the second ring. Hey, she said, what's up? I hesitated. If I told this story out loud, it would stop being just how it is and start being a pattern. My mom called, I said. She wants me to send Jake $800 for rent. Rachel whistled. Again? She asked. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Yeah, I said. And I feel guilty for even calling it again. like I'm keeping score. Are you? She asked gently. I glanced at the lists. Kind of, I admitted. I made a list of all the times they've asked for money or favors. She hummed. How long is it? She asked. Long, I said. Too long. Okay, pause, she said. Let me ask you something harsh. When's the last time your mom called you just to ask, how's your heart? I laughed. Bitter. Never, I said. She asks how work is, sometimes, usually because she wants to tell me about her job. So, what do they call for? Rachel asked, already knowing the answer. Help, I said. Always help. Money, advice, emotional triage. She let that sit. And when was the last time you called them for help? She asked. I thought. The answer embarrassed me. I don't, I said. Not really. It just seems harder than handling it myself. Why? She asked. Because if I ask for help, it becomes about them, I said. Their stress, their worry. I end up comforting them. Exactly, she said. So, Emily, what are you actually getting from this relationship? The question landed like a slap. I get family, I said weakly. She was quiet. Do you? She asked. Or do you get a job you don't get paid for? I exhaled. You're making me feel like a bad person, I said. No, she replied softly. Your family made you feel like a good person only when you're useful. I'm asking who you are when you're not useful. I stared at the notes list. Who am I if I'm not the helper? I murmured. Exactly, she said. And also, what happens if you say no? I pictured it. Mom's hurt voice. Jake's annoyed silence. The guilt? They'll be mad, I said. They'll say I've changed, that I don't care. Okay, she said. And will that be true? That you don't care? No, I said. I do care. That's the problem. I care so much my chest hurts. Right, she said. So their story and your reality don't match. What if your job isn't to convince them? What if your job is to protect yourself? From my own family? I asked. Her voice was gentle but firm. From being used by your own family, she said, yes. We sat in the quiet, our breathing sinking through the phone. I don't know how to not pick up, I said finally. She chuckled. Start small, she said. Let it go to voicemail once. Just once. See what happens. I looked at my phone on the table. I told her I'd call back, I said. That's not a contract, Rachel replied. It's a habit. You're allowed to pause. Her words bumped up against 33 years of programming. You're the responsible one. You always figure things out. You don't make people wait. I feel like a terrible daughter, I whispered. You're not terrible, she said. You're waking up. That night, I didn't call my mother back. I didn't send $800. I didn't draft a long explanation text. I put my phone on silent, ate my now cold pasta, and watched 3 episodes of a mediocre show without telling anyone to breathe or calm down. Guilt chewed at me like acid. Voicemail notification glowed on my screen. But under the guilt, something else flickered. A small, scared, brand new thought. What if being a good daughter doesn't mean being available on demand? My mother left 2 voicemails. The first one came 10 minutes after our call. Hey, honey, just checking if you saw the numbers, she said, voice artificially light. Call me when you get a chance. Love you. The second one came an hour later. I don't want to pressure you, she said, which is exactly what people say when they're about to pressure you. But the rent's due tomorrow, and I'm sick to my stomach about it. I keep thinking about your brother out on the street. I know you're busy. We don't have anyone else. We don't have anyone else. It used to make me feel special. Now it made me feel trapped. I listened to both messages the next morning, sitting on the edge of my bed with my coffee going cold in my hands. Old me would have called back right away, voice full of apology. New me, or whatever version was trying to emerge, took a deep breath and opened a third note in my phone. Cost of just this once. I wrote, just this once becomes every time. We don't have anyone else means we won't try anyone else. You're the only one we can count on really means we choose not to count on each other. Maya, my therapist, had once told me, every time you say just this once, you're teaching people what normal is. Normal, in my family, had become, Emily will handle it. My stomach twisted. I typed out a text to Mom 3 times and deleted it. Finally, I wrote, hey Mom, I looked at my budget. I can't cover Jake's rent this month. I hope he can talk to his landlord or work out a payment plan. I love you. My thumb hovered over send. I heard Rachel's voice in my head. You're not responsible for how they feel about your limits. I hit send. The 3 dots appeared instantly. Typing. Stop. Typing. Stop. Finally. Wow, okay. I didn't realize things were so tight for you. Not I understand. Not we'll figure something else out. Just a subtle little guilt pin. I resisted the urge to explain. No, they're not that tight. I just can't be the bank forever. I'm saving for my own future. Instead, I put the phone down. An hour later, she sent another text. I guess we'll manage somehow. Don't worry about it. Which, of course, meant, please worry about it a lot. I worried. I also went to work, answered emails, led a meeting, and did not spontaneously combust. That weekend, I visited my friend group for our monthly brunch. We're all in our 30s, which means half the conversation is about work and the other half is about therapy. I told them about the call. A hush fell over the table. Did he get evicted? Jenna asked, wide-eyed. No, I said. He borrowed from a friend. Mom told me later. So there were other options, said Malik. Yeah, I said. Like they always say, we don't have anyone else. But apparently they do when I say no. Wild how that works, Jenna muttered. You know what gets me? Malik said. No one ever says, we don't have anyone else to call just to ask how you are. We all laughed, but my chest ached. I feel guilty, I admitted, like I've broken some invisible contract. You didn't sign a contract, Jenna said. Your family just got used to you acting like you did. I told them about the lists, the money, the emotional labor. Malik shook his head. Girl, that's not a family relationship, he said. That's an unpaid job with terrible benefits. There was a time that comment would have made me defensive. Now, it just made me tired. Later, in my session with Maya, I laid it all out. It feels like every no I say is me turning my back on them, I said, and on the kid version of me who kept us all afloat. She nodded. What did saying yes cost that kid version of you? She asked. I thought about it. It cost her a childhood, I said. Peace, feeling taken care of. And what does saying yes cost you now? She asked. Money, I said. Time, emotional energy, my own goals. I put off things I need. She smiled gently. So when your mother asks, can you help just this once? She said, your body remembers it's never once. It's a pattern. Yes, I said. And when I say no, I feel like I'm the selfish one. She tilted her head. What would you say to a client who told you this exact story? She asked. I didn't need to think long. I'd tell them they're allowed to have boundaries, I said. That it's okay to let grown adults experience the consequences of their choices. That love doesn't mean being a 24/7 safety net. She nodded. So, why is it true for them and not for you? She asked. I stared at the floor. Because I'm the responsible one, I said automatically. Then I laughed. There it is, I added. The script. She smiled. Scripts feel true because they're familiar, she said, not because they're accurate. That night, my mother called again. For the first time in my life, I let it go to voicemail without my heart trying to leap out of my chest. Progress, I thought. Tiny, but real. My mother left 2 voicemails. The first one came 10 minutes after our call. Hey, honey, just checking if you saw the numbers, she said, voice artificially light. Call me when you get a chance. Love you. The second one came an hour later. I don't want to pressure you, she said, which is exactly what people say when they're about to pressure you. But the rent's due tomorrow and I'm sick to my stomach about it. I keep thinking about your brother out on the street. I know you're busy. We don't have anyone else. We don't have anyone else. It used to make me feel special. Now it made me feel trapped. I listened to both messages the next morning, sitting on the edge of my bed with my coffee going cold in my hands. Old me would have called back right away, voice full of apology. New me, or whatever version was trying to emerge, took a deep breath and opened a third note in my phone. Cost of just this once. I wrote, just this once becomes every time. We don't have anyone else means we won't try anyone else. You're the only one we can count on really means we choose not to count on each other. Maya, my therapist, had once told me, every time you say, just this once, you're teaching people what normal is. Normal, in my family, had become, Emily will handle it. My stomach twisted. I typed out a text to Mom 3 times and deleted it. Finally, I wrote, Hey Mom, I looked at my budget. I can't cover Jake's rent this month. I hope he can talk to his landlord or work out a payment plan. I love you. My thumb hovered over send. I heard Rachel's voice in my head. You're not responsible for how they feel about your limits. I hit send. The 3 dots appeared instantly. Typing. Stop. Typing. Stop. Finally. Wow. Okay. I didn't realize things were so tight for you. Not, I understand. Not, we'll figure something else out. Just a subtle little guilt pin. I resisted the urge to explain. No, they're not that tight. I just can't be the bank forever. I'm saving for my own future. Instead, I put the phone down. An hour later, she sent another text. I guess we'll manage somehow. Don't worry about it. Which, of course, meant, please worry about it a lot. I worried. I also went to work, answered emails, led a meeting, and did not spontaneously combust. That weekend, I visited my friend group for our monthly brunch. We're all in our 30s, which means half the conversation is about work and the other half is about therapy. I told them about the call. A hush fell over the table. Did he get evicted? Jenna asked, wide-eyed. No, I said. He borrowed from a friend. Mom told me later. So there were other options, said Malik. Yeah, I said. Like they always say, we don't have anyone else. But apparently they do when I say no. Wild how that works, Jenna muttered. You know what gets me? Malik said. No one ever says, we don't have anyone else to call just to ask how you are. We all laughed, but my chest ached. I feel guilty, I admitted, like I've broken some invisible contract. You didn't sign a contract, Jenna said. Your family just got used to you acting like you did. I told them about the lists, the money, the emotional labor. Malik shook his head. Girl, That's not a family relationship, he said. That's an unpaid job with terrible benefits. There was a time that comment would have made me defensive. Now, it just made me tired. Later, in my session with Maya, I laid it all out. It feels like every no I say is me turning my back on them, I said, and on the kid version of me who kept us all afloat. She nodded. What did saying yes cost that kid version of you? She asked. I thought about it. It cost her a childhood, I said. Peace. Feeling taken care of. And what does saying yes cost you now? She asked. Money, I said. Time, emotional energy, my own goals. I put off things I need. She smiled gently. So when your mother asks, can you help just this once? She said, your body remembers it's never once, it's a pattern. Yes, I said. And when I say no, I feel like I'm the selfish one. She tilted her head. What would you say to a client who told you this exact story? She asked. I didn't need to think long. I'd tell them they're allowed to have boundaries, I said. That it's okay to let grown adults experience the consequences of their choices. That love doesn't mean being a 24/7 safety net. She nodded. So why is it true for them and not for you? She asked. I stared at the floor. Because I'm the responsible one, I said automatically. Then I laughed. There it is, I added, the script. She smiled. Scripts feel true because they're familiar, she said, not because they're accurate. That night, my mother called again. For the first time in my life, I let it go to voicemail without my heart trying to leap out of my chest. Progress, I thought. Tiny, but real. My family didn't disown me. Part of me was surprised. I'd half expected some drama-laden group text or a long message from Mom saying, we're so disappointed in you. Instead, something subtler happened. They adjusted. Not quickly, not cleanly, but they did. Jake texted me once. Heard you wouldn't help with Mom. Guess you're too busy now. Followed by a shrug emoji. I took a breath and replied, I did help, just not in the way you wanted. I'm not available to be the only caregiver or ATM anymore. I hope you can understand that one day. He left me unread. Weeks later, he sent a meme like nothing had happened. Dad stayed prickly for a while. Our conversations were shorter, more about the weather than feelings. But then, one day, he called to tell me about a doctor's appointment he'd gone to alone. Your mother wanted you to talk to them, he said. I told her, she's got her own life. I can handle this. I blinked. Wow, I said. That's new. He grunted. Don't get used to it, he said. But yeah, I survived. I smiled. I'm glad, I said. You're more capable than you think. Mom took the longest. She tested the new boundaries like a kid pushing a fence. She called with minor crises. The neighbor said something rude. I can't find my favorite pan, and I gently redirected. Mom, that sounds frustrating, I'd say, but I can't dive deep into that right now. I have 20 minutes. Do you want to tell me about anything good that happened this week? At first, she'd huff. Everything's stressful, she'd say. Then, slowly, she started slipping in other things. I saw a pretty bird at the feeder, she'd say. Your aunt sent me a funny video. I tried a new recipe. It wasn't perfect, but it was more than a list of emergencies. One afternoon, months after the surgery, she called while I was on a walk. Hey, I said, I've got about 15 minutes while I'm outside. What's up? Nothing, she said. I almost dropped the phone. Nothing? I repeated. I was just thinking about you, she said. Wanted to hear your voice. I felt my eyes burn. That's new, I said. She laughed. I can't just call my daughter because I love her? She asked. You can, I said. I just didn't know that was allowed. We walked her in her neighborhood, me in mine, in companionable silence for a few seconds. Then she said, You know, when you didn't come for the whole month, I was mad, she admitted. I told myself, you didn't care. I waited. But then I saw how tired your father was after just a week, she continued. And I thought, maybe she was right. Maybe it would have swallowed her whole. I exhaled. I'm glad you see that, I said. I don't like it, she added, but I see it. Progress, I thought. Tiny, but real. Later that night, I sat on my couch and scrolled through my call log. I still saw patterns. They still called in crisis. But now, I didn't answer every time. I let some calls go to voicemail. I screened. I decided if I had the capacity, and something interesting happened. When I stopped answering like a firefighter, the number of 5-alarm emergencies decreased. Some things they simply figured out themselves. The more I stepped back, the more I saw clearly. I am not their only option. I was just their favorite shortcut. One evening, Rachel asked, Do you feel less like the good daughter now? I thought about it. I feel less like the only daughter, I said, which is a relief. She smiled. And who do you feel like instead? She asked. I looked around my apartment, at the plants I'd kept alive, the photos of friends on the wall, the stack of books that had nothing to do with self-help. I feel like a person, I said, a whole person, who happens to be a daughter, not the other way around. Years of therapy hadn't erased the reflex. When my phone buzzed with MOM or Dad, my heart still sometimes jumped. The old script still whispered, They need you. If you don't pick up, you're bad. But now there was a new voice, too. Quieter, steadier. You're allowed to choose. You're allowed to ask, Do I have the energy? You're allowed to be loved for more than what you provide. I changed the way I save their numbers. Not visibly, they still just say Mom and Dad. But in my head, I rewrote the labels. From emergency hotline to human relationships. Messy, imperfect, two-way. I wish I could tell you my family had a big epiphany. That they all went to therapy. That they apologized and said, We're sorry we only called when we needed something. They didn't. They probably never will. What changed wasn't them. It was what I answered to. I used to answer every call, every text, every "can you just?" because I thought that was the only way to be loved. Now, I answer when I can, when I want to, when I have room inside, and when I can't, I don't contort myself into knots explaining why. I'm not able to help with that is a complete sentence. I love you, but I can't come is a real love. Call 911. Not me is a boundary, not a betrayal. Sometimes, late at night, 12-year-old me still panics. She says, If you stop helping, they'll leave you. I put a hand over my heart and tell her, If they only stay because you burn yourself out, they're not really here, and I'm here. I'm not leaving you. Therapy language, I know, but it works. And slowly, my phone has started to ring for other reasons. Friends calling to tell me good news. Coworkers asking me to celebrate, not fix. People who say, I thought of you when I saw this, instead of, I thought of you because I need something. My family still calls when they need things. That probably won't change. But now, when I see their names light up my screen, I ask myself one simple question before I hit answer. Am I picking up as the old version of me, the designated adult who exists to perform? Or as the new version, who knows she gets to have a life too? And more often, the answer is I'm picking up as me, not their hero, not their crutch, just their daughter. On the days I can't do even that, I let it go to voicemail. And for the first time in my life, I trust that's not the end of the world. It's just the beginning of mine.